All right, hey everyone, I'm back with video number 2, and hopefully we can finish up tonight. It's kind of shooting this a little late, so I'm hoping to get this done in just this video, but maybe it's going to go into 3. We'll see here. In the last video, I told you I wanted to show you how this mechanism works and why these grooves here that does the 180 degree rotation need to be in opposite directions. Well, I figured it out. I figured out how to do it. So I set up 2 joints that rotate on each other, and what I'm going to do is turn the base and the lid, the opacity down so we can see what's going on. So to do that, you right click on the base all the way down to opacity control and hit 50% or whatever percent you want. I'm just doing 50%. You can see obviously you can do a bunch of them. So now we can see the metal pin that's in the black blade holder part, and you can see how it is at the one side of the groove. I'm just calling this the groove. I guess I don't know a better name for it, but the pin is on this side and it's on this side. So let's do our first joint. So what you're going to see as I rotate this, you'll see that pin stays put as this rotates out, and of course it stops at that 180, and you can see this one hasn't moved yet. The pin is still right where it started at. And then as we do the second motion, this time the blade and this will move, because remember this right here is locked in at 180 because of this pin right here. So you can see as I move this, that pin stays put and relative to this one. So sorry to zoom out there. So as I move this, now this pin gets locked in to this position. And now in this position, this knife can't move. It can't rock down anymore because it's reached its limit inside this groove. And it can't move up because it's locked, it's met its limit in this groove. And so as long as your hand is on this handle and you don't allow it to open, this knife stays in that position. And that's kind of how the mechanism works. Pretty simple. Now, one thing that you wouldn't necessarily, it's not very intuitive, but because I've printed like 50 of these, I've come to the understanding that you need this. I'm going to change this 180 a little bit. Let me get these back up to 100. Basically, I'm going to make it not quite 180. And the reason for that is you have to put a little, let me turn some of these off and hide my joints. You have to put a little slop or a little allowance in this groove here so that pin can fit in. Well, that allowance introduces some slop. So what ends up happening when you make these grooves perfect 180 degrees, you get to this open locked position and there's still just a little movement in here. This whole middle blade holder section can still kind of rock up and down a little bit. And so to change that, and I've found this works really, really well, is we just have to change this to like 179 degrees or 178 degrees. And then it works. Then what happens is, to get it to fully close in that 180 degrees, you have to put a little pressure on it. And these magnets are strong enough to close it. But when you first put it together without the magnets or anything like that, you'll realize that it doesn't do the full 180. It'll kind of be stuck open a little bit. But that's what we want. And you'll just have to trust me on this because, like I said, I've done this a few times. So, okay, so instead of doing everything on that main first sketch that we did, I am just going to sketch it on this so I don't confuse myself. So I'm going to do another sketch right on Oh, let's revert position. What's just happened here? I think what happened is I don't have my, I need to put my joints back. Oh, and I did. Okay, let's get out of here. Let's hide the joints. Let's do this. I already started that sketch, so let's click on it again. Okay, so I want to be able to basically draw, well, let me just show you. I'm going to draw a circle, and it lines up with this, the center of this previous circle. So I'm going to draw that out to the 3.2, and I'll do another circle here, and we'll leave that at 3.2 as well. Now, I'm going to delete this constraint. Basically, this constraint is saying that this circle I just drew is constrained to the center point of the previous circle, which means I won't be able to move it. So generally you don't want to delete constraints, but I'm going to, because I want to be able to move this. So you just click on the constraint, hit the delete button. Click on the constraint, hit the delete button. Now what we can do is click on that circle and hit M for move, and we want to set the pivot point. So we'll have to, we obviously don't want to pivot from here, we want to pivot off this. So you come over here, set pivot, you can click on this circle, and then you always have to confirm the pivot. This confused me for the longest time. I would start trying to like rotate it and nothing would happen. You have to click that check mark, and now it's saved. And now I can rotate that circle how I want, and I'm just going to rotate it. You can see here it said 5 degrees. I'm going to do 1 degree. Now, depending on the allowances or the tolerances of your printer, I'm going to do 1 degree in, so this will end up being 178 degrees. You may want to try just doing like 0.5 degrees, and that way, you know, you have a little bit more tolerance there. But I found 1 degree works really well. So I'm going to hit OK. And I think, yeah, we'll be able to select that. So let's do the same with this circle. M for move. I'm going to hit, and make sure you're on the free move. That's how you get all these options. So I'm going to select pivot, and you don't have to hit the center here. You can just go on this circle and it'll pop it to the center. Set the pivot, rotate it to -1 degrees, and hit OK. And now we're going to finish sketch. And so if we zoom way in here, I can click on that. I can hold shift and click on this. Now you're gonna have to hide your sketch now, so you can get to this bottom surface. Because I'm gonna hit E for extrude, and then I'm gonna just click on this base here. But you see how it's only letting me click the sketch. So I'm just gonna hide this sketch. That's still selected. I'm gonna E for extrude, and I'm gonna click here, and you can see it just added that little section, and I'll kind of show you on and off. Look at that groove, how it just shrunk just a little bit. So that does mess up my joint a little bit. It'll kind of dig into the model, but I'm not going to change that. The joint was just to kind of show you how it works. Okay, I will fast forward because now I have to do that same thing to the lid. And okay, so I just got it done on the lid now. And let me kind of get out of the sketch here. Okay, so that's done. So I think the next thing to do is work on this spring. And so let's go to blade holder here. I'm going to shut off the blade. Now this is where things might get a little messy for me. I have kind of practiced this before on a different blade, but I didn't really get get it down to how I want it. And honestly, before I do this, well, you know what? Actually, let me just explain something, otherwise it's going to drive me nuts. Never mind. I'm just going to make the spring. So let's draw a sketch on here. So we're going to draw a new sketch. I want to project this surface, and maybe, yeah, we don't really need that surface. I'm going to turn that main sketch on because I also want to project these guys right here. And you can see as I click things, it's adding it to my projection. And I think that's the only things we need to project. So I'm going to hit OK. Turn off that main sketch. And now you can see I've kind of sketched the outline of that base here. So we can turn the body off for now, just so we don't get confused. Okay, I want to draw a spring now, basically a little opening that allows me to move this pin out of the way. Before I do that, I actually want to thicken this pin up a little bit. Normally I draw this in the very, very beginning on this main sketch, but I forgot to do it. So what I'm going to do, and I'll show you, this is really easy. I'm just going to draw like a construction line here. We'll just go 0.5 millimeters. And that was supposed to be construction, so I'll click it and hit X. Now I'm going to do a circle and do that same size circle. And I'm going to delete, actually I'm going to hit the trim button. It looks like I can't trim that. Basically I just want to get this bigger, right? So instead of this being a circle, now it's kind of like an oblong, like an oval. And that just gives it a little bit more meat. So I don't think I can actually trim the projection. I can't. That's fine. Okay. So the next thing we want to do, I'm getting all turned around here, is draw some lines that go over all the way over here. So I'm just going to hit L for line, and you can click on the, you can kind of drag your mouse to the center and then move up, and it'll find that tangent point and draw over. And then I want to come over, oh, maybe just like, let's go 3 millimeters. This is all just kind of guessing here. I'm going to go down 8 millimeters. Maybe I'll even go 9. Let's go 8. The bigger you make this, the bigger the spring will be, which means the harder it'll be to maneuver. So let's do that right there. Okay. And so now I need to offset this, and I'm going to offset it by -0.25. And hit enter. I'm going to offset this one by 0.25 and hit enter. And now I'm going to make a rectangle, and I need this to be a 2-point rectangle. Let's see here. Click. We'll drag down to here, and let's make this maybe like, let's just go 6. Hopefully that's not too weak. This will all make sense, I promise. And now I'm going to trim this off. Basically, I'm creating a profile here. Where did I have to? Okay, so this line needs to come all the way over. And that line is already there. So now, if I click on this section here, can't trim that section or that. I shouldn't have projected these vertical lines. Now you can see this is where, this is what will get cut out. I'm going to extrude this and cut it from the model. which will leave this part kind of like free floating. This big void here is for your finger to kind of grab onto it. So let's finish sketch just to get this basic thing, this basic spring taken care of. So if I click on this and I make sure I select all my things I want to select here, hit E for extrude and just drag it down so it cuts it. Now you can see I've got this big opening. And what's my angle here? 51.6 degrees. Let's see if I can I match that? I just want to bring this out a little bit. Let's go distance and angle. I want to do 51.6. That doesn't look right. Oh, you know what? It was the original angle. I want this to be... What did that angle be? Here, I'm going to hit cancel real quick because I want to see what this... I want to see what this original angle is. I'm just going to get into this. This angle is... Do I have it written anywhere? Okay, let me go all the way up. D dimension 128.4. Oops, I'm sorry. We actually want this dimension right here. I hit D for dimension 51.6. That's not making sense to me. So I think what we'll do is we'll just hit chamfer and we'll just chamfer it 45. You know what? I'm just going to eyeball it. Distance and angle. We're allowed to do that. Doesn't have to be exact. 40 degrees. Looks pretty dang good. And I'm only doing that just to give this a little bit more meat. Honestly, I could probably... Let's go 2 millimeters. And that angle isn't quite looking good. Let's go 42. 38, 39. Let's just leave it at 40. Sorry, I'm wasting a lot of time here. Okay, let's get organized here. Let's go back to this sketch. And now I want to extrude this part up. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to hit E for extrude. And I'm actually going to do I'm not going to go quite up to here. That's 2 millimeters, so let's go to like 1.8 millimeters. Yeah, that's probably even too high. Let's do like 1.6. Just want to make sure there's a lot of blade left. I'm going to hit new body. Okay. Now I'm going to... Are we not on blade holder? What's going on here? Oh, I started making a new body right here. See, I'm really bad at components. This body should be in here, but I don't know if I know how to. Here, I'm just gonna undo that, especially since my sketch is in here. Let's just make sure we're on blade hold. I think what happened is when I went into the sketch, because this sketch is not in any component, when I clicked into that, it took me out of all the components, and then it just created a body that's not part of the components. So I just basically deleted it from the timeline, and I'm going to make sure my blade holder is selected now, that component. Now I can extrude 1.6. And the reason I'm doing a new body, okay, is because I want to cut it from this. So I'm going to do the combine command. And so this is the target body. The tool body is this. And I want to cut, and I want to keep body, keep tools. Tool body is... All right, what's going on here? Combine. My target body is right here. My tool body is right here. Cut, keep tool, hit OK. And now what I'm going to do is do a press pull, and we'll go like -0.5 and hit OK. Let's see what that looks like. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm kind of creating some space here between this. Let's shut off the sketch. Now we can just join this body up. So let's hit combine, this body and this body. We want to join this time. We don't need to keep tool, and hit OK. And that just gives us a little bit more meat. And if we turn the blade back on, it'll fit right in there. And remember, I don't know if I said before, I made this circle the size that this pin needs to be, not the size of the blade. So this won't quite look right in my model, but that's okay. And actually, it looks like I forgot a line here. I didn't select everything, but you know what? Oh, you know what? We can go back and do that. Sketch. I didn't grab this tiny little piece here, so we might as well just do it. Otherwise it'll drive me nuts. So we'll grab that, hit E for extrude, click on the top of this, and it'll just bring it up, join, hit OK. There we go. Now it's nice and straight across. Okay. So there's our pin. And this is where things kind of get interesting. This is 3 millimeters thick, which is way too thick to be a spring. So what I'm going to do is hit E, and I'm going to go -1.5. We'll go -1.5. And that brings that way down, which seems odd. And also, I don't necessarily love that little piece. I don't think it matters to the print. Let's see how wide that is. 0.10. I don't even think that'll print differently, but you know what we can do? We can just hit E, -0.1. That messed this up. I messed it up a little bit. Yeah, I don't really like that either. But we can fix that as well. Let's just click on this, hit E, and just close that up. There we go. Okay. Now, with the blade sitting in here, there's nothing supporting it on this side. And this is where I don't really love this design because it just kind of seems sloppy. But basically, I'm just going to create a square here and extrude it up to this level. And that gives the blade something to sit on. And I also want to see if I can... Let's see how easy I can do this. I also want to see if I can chamfer this. And we might have to do 2 distances here. Let's see how well this will... There, it's kind of... Alright, well, it's letting me do that at least. It's cutting it off right there, which is what we want. I'm just going to hit OK on that. That just widens that base, makes this pin a little stronger. Let's do one more sketch. Kind of getting sloppy here, but actually, you know what? We don't have to. We can just click on the other sketch here. I'm going to hit R for rectangle, I am just going to just draw this randomly here. We know we want it to be kind of lined up with that corner. And we'll just do, let's just go like 6 by 6. Let's go 5 by 6. Enter. Finish sketch. Turn that sketch on, and this profile, sketch profile, is already right level with this surface. So I can just hit E for extrude and click on the, let's turn our sketch off, click on this, and hit OK. Now, the blade can rest on that. I don't know if this will affect the spring, though. Like I said, this is kind of a new way I'm doing this. I'm not entirely sure I like this, but we're going to test it out, because at the end of this, I'm going to print this, and we'll see if it works. So this may be something you have to tweak in your design and mess with how this works. But that's kind of what the back looks like. And like I said, this little empty space is so you can get your finger in there and pull this out. So let's chamfer this so our finger can have a little bit something to catch on. Let's see, I might not be able to do this too well. Let's go like 0.4. Oh, you know what? I'm going to escape that. Let's go to Modify, Draft. We'll pick our pull direction, remember, which is like the hinge, and then the face, and then we can just, that kind of does close my, basically I'm just trying to create a little lip here that your fingernail can catch, your finger can catch, but it did just kind of close this a little bit. So that might not have been, tell you what though, now we can just click this, hit pull press, go back -5, there we go. Okay, I kind of like that. Put our blade in here, and you can see this sticks out from the blade pretty good, hopefully not too well. And I think that's pretty good. I don't know what else we need to do with this. So let's start chamfering stuff, and we'll send this to the printer. And then I'm going to go to bed tonight, and I'll get it in the morning. And maybe what I'll do, well, I'll just splice it together. I just won't finalize this video, and I'll print it, and then I'll start the video up again tomorrow and show you the knife. So, okay, let's chamfer some stuff. We don't want these sharp corners. So I'm just going to click on all of these edges here. Tell you what, let's do the inside edge first. Let's hit chamfer. Let's just go back to equal distance. Let's do like 0.2. What does that look like for this? We'll do 0.3. We might as well do 0.5. I want a little bit more. I'm just going to do like 0.2 here. I lied, 0.3. I don't want to shrink this down too much because that's holding the blade in, right? So for the rest, though, so we got this. I'm just selecting all the edges, and there's probably better ways to select all these edges. But this is such a basic model, it won't take long. I'm just holding Shift and clicking. Let's do a 0.5 and hit OK. That kind of softens everything. I'm not going to soften this edge only because I want as much real estate here as I can get for this blade. Okay. I kind of think we're done here with this one. I guess we could just add like a little tiny chamfer on this just to make that easier for that pin to get in. So let's do like a 0.2 and hit OK. I'll just soften that edge a little bit. And let's just soften these as well. We'll again do like a 0.2. Probably not necessary for this one, but hopefully that'll allow this to come in a little easier. I don't think I need to chamfer this because this chamfer will already allow that blade to slide in. So I think this is probably fine here. But let's add one here. We just kind of want to get rid of all these sharp edges. This one we probably could change to distance and angle. Let's do our angle at 90, but let's do this at 0.2, 0.1. Let's just do 0.1. So this is nice and 90 degrees. Okay, I think that is done for the blade holder, and I'm excited to see if this spring will work. The only other option we could probably do if this spring is still too thick, it's only 1.5 millimeters, so I think that'll be fine, is you could, before you do all this chamfering, you could actually just make this whole thing thinner. So you can maybe not shrink it quite as much on this side and just make this whole thing thinner from the bottom. But that's going to involve some work because remember, I need this to be from here to here needs to be 10 millimeters. I'm already off. I'm actually at 9 millimeters. So I might have to change that a little bit. Oh, I can easily change that. I just went down a 0.5 millimeter too much. So if I bring this up a 0.5 millimeter and this up a 0.5 millimeter, I'm at 10 millimeters because that's what my little screw rivet thing, that's the dimension that needs to be. So I'll fix that off camera. But but anyways, if we took, you know, a millimeter off the bottom of this, that means we're going to have to make this thicker by a millimeter. And I guess that's really not that hard either. You just have to extrude 0.5 millimeter on each side. So just think about that if you're designing your own, you're trying to work out your measurements or trying to get this spring to work. You may have to kind of mess with the thicknesses of things. Like I said, this is kind of an experiment for me. I've never made the spring quite like this. Looks kind of funky though. Looks kind of cool actually. I'm a little concerned that this groove isn't long enough, that maybe I'm not going to have enough springiness here. And I don't think I can just extrude. I would almost have to extrude that all the way back on this top surface too, which I suppose I probably could, but for now I'm just going to leave it as is. But one option I might try if the spring doesn't work very well, before I change any thicknesses, I may just try to extend this groove. But it would, like I said, it would have to cut into this top surface. So I'm trying to keep this part as strong as possible because obviously that's where the blade goes, so it needs to be strong. Let's just chamfer these guys. I forgot about that edge. I'm not going to chamfer this bottom part. And I'll just do like a 0.2, and I just need to do equal distance. Okay, let's call that good. Let's do the base next. Okay, before I do the chamfer here, there was one thing I wanted to do up here. If you remember the sketch, I had this other circle here. And I don't think I explained it on that first video, or at least I don't believe I did. These, gosh, no, I think maybe I did. But these magnets are what kind of holds it open and closed. And so what I'm going to do is create like a little pin. I was going to use the metal pin here, but I've changed my mind. I don't think I need to. I can just click on this profile. Let's hit E for extrude. We want the offset to start here, and let's just go like, oh, I don't know, 0.6. Let's go 2 millimeters, 1 millimeter, and hit OK. And I'll chamfer this at 0.2. Okay. Let's go ahead and chamfer these edges. I'll explain this later. Basically, I'm going to create a hole. I'll explain it now. Basically, I'm going to create a hole on this side. So when you open and close this, you're actually going to have to kind of pull these two pieces apart before you can rotate it. And these magnets will then kind of hold it together, if that makes sense. So if it's in your pocket, it cannot open up unless you pull it apart, and then you can rotate it, and then you can shut it, and it won't come open until you pull it apart again. You know, this model is all about safety compared to my last models, which is all I'm using, like the metal pins and stuff like that. So I thought this was a good safety addition. When I did the 0.2 on this, I should have added a few more. Can't do it now, so I'm going to just chamfer this 0.2. Okay. Now let's chamfer all of these inside edges. The inside edges are going to be chamfered differently than the outside, so we're going to stick with our 0.5. Now why? Okay, it did it. Oops, I didn't select that edge. I think that's the reason. So let's click this edge. Thought that looked a little funny. Ah, man, I'm just messing up here. Chamfer 0.5. There we go. That just softens all these corners, because remember, these are going to be sliding on each other, so you don't want that to be a sharp edge. I'm going to leave this. I don't think I'm going to chamfer this. I don't think I've done it in the past, but you know what? We might as well. I'll do a 0.2 on these. Okay. On the outside, we are doing a 1 millimeter chamfer. And since I'm here, I'll hit E, extrude 0.5, because remember, I need to get this to 10 millimeters thick, so that needs to be a little shallower. Okay, this side is done. Let's move on to the lid. Let's create this little hole first. So we'll turn on that sketch, and we will hit E for extrude. We want to start on the object. Let's go down like 1.4 millimeters. Object you are creating, it's not visible because I'm not on the lid. Hit cancel. And body's turned on. Okay. See, another thing. I didn't have that component selected. E for extrude. Click on this. Cancel. E for extrude. We're going to start at the object, and we're going to go negative 1.4. I guess just positive 1.4. Whatever way that cuts into it. Let's hide the sketch. And we need to make this a little bigger so there's some tolerance for that pin. So let's just go, it doesn't have to be tight at all. So let's just do like negative 0.3. We'll chamfer these at a 0.2. Let's see if my analysis is still cut in half. Let's turn on this base and turn this around. There you can see that how that pin will sit in. We got plenty of room, plenty of tolerance. Remember, the magnets are, for the most part, going to. Gosh, I don't think I need to make that big of a tolerance. Let's just do. Let's do that offset, maybe even 2.5. Let's go 2.5. And really this probably didn't need to be as deep, but that's okay. Alright, let's turn analysis off, turn our base off. Working on our chamfers here. I think you don't even have to click that whole thing. Let's see. 0.2. It kind of selects it for you. Fusion kind of knows what you want to do. Okay, so we're going to select this one, this edge here, this edge, not that corner, this edge. And we'll do 0.5. Click on this. I think we can just click on one edge, so let's just see. Yeah, we can. This will be 1. It completes the ring for you. And then let's hit E for extrude, and we'll go up 0.5. So now when I turn the base on, if I click on this and this, you can see I'm at my 10 millimeters, which is exactly what we need. Okay. I think we're good. I think we've got, I noticed my color changed on this, and I think that's because when I added this little, when I combined these bodies, it combined this to this, which took that appearance away. So I'm gonna hit close. It's not important, but okay. I'm pretty sure that's about it. About the only thing I thought that maybe I would do that I did not put in sorry, I'm losing my, that I didn't put in the main sketch is a place for glue. And I've done this before, and let me kind of just show you. I'm going to create another sketch, and I should have done this on the original sketch. And I suppose I still can. Let's take a look. Let's see if this screws me up. So let's do a circle that is 5 millimeters. Another circle that's 5 millimeters. And hit OK. Let's see if that screws me up. It didn't. Perfect. Let me turn on this sketch. Okay. Just hide this body for a second. Let's start with the base first. I want to click that. Click that. Let's hit E for extrude. Sorry, I'm not explaining myself very well. I want to click here, and I'm going to do negative 0.4. There. Can you guess what this is? That little indent is? That is for glue spillover. When you glue these magnets in, there's a tendency for the glue to like come out the side, and then that super glue will kind of stain your print. So now if you put your glue on this surface here and you smush it in with the magnet, that glue has kind of like a reservoir to not, dump out the sides. I found that to be a really nice addition to my latest prints. So let's click on this again. Click on this again. We can hide that sketch. Hit E for extrude. Object. We're gonna do it from the object, and we're gonna go. What did I say? Negative 0.4, or just 0.4. Okay, it's not working because I didn't get on my lid. I'm so mad when I do that. Click on that again. E for extrude. Object. We'll do 0.4. Okay. All right. I think we are done here. I think we have everything that we need. So, tell you what. Damn, I'm already at 50 minutes almost. I'm going to send this to the printer. I will probably just print this all in PLA. Actually, you know what? I have PETG in my printer now. It's the not high speed, high flow. It's the Bamboo Labs PETG high flow. I love this stuff. It is more flexible like PETG, but it prints really fast like PLA and just as nice as PLA. So I'm going to print it in that, and we'll see how these tolerances work with PETG. So I will be back. I'm going to send this to the printer, and the next part of this video will show me kind of assembling this thing, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so I'm just going to jump on here real quick. I'm not going to show you the assembly yet. We're going to jump back into Fusion. I did print 2 of them because I actually assembled one, and I have one unassembled, and it works okay. It needs some refinement though. So I don't think for this method with this little knob that we printed to lock it into place right here, I don't think 2 magnets is necessary. It becomes a little tough to pull it out. The strength of these magnets is just a little strong. And I'm worried you have to pull so hard that you're gonna end up cutting yourself on this blade, which of course we don't want. But it does work. When it's closed, you literally cannot open it. So I think it's a good design choice, especially if you're going to carry this in your pocket. It does make it safer. It does eliminate that risk of it opening up in your pocket. But like I said, to pull it apart, it's a little tough, a little tougher than I would like or than it needs to be. And then you do have to kind of pull it apart a little bit and let those magnets snap in place. And again, it can't come apart. I'm trying to put some torsion on this, and it's locked in place. So, and this blade for like the wobble like this, it's locked in pretty good. Okay, things I want to change real quick. My spring worked pretty darn good actually. It was a little harder than I want it to be. You can pull it out, but it's a little tricky to try to pull that out and try to get the blade in and out. I ended up using like a little screwdriver and kind of wedged it in there as I pulled the blade in and out. So I think, like I said before, I want to extend this top line out more because the spring pretty much ends where that line ends on the top. So I think if we extend this out, it'll work a little better. But it actually worked better than I thought it would. One other change I want to make is to add just a little bit more tolerance for this blade. Make the inside of this just a little wider and a little deeper, and that'll give just a little bit more room for this blade. It's pretty snug. There's some movement in there, but I actually may skip the wideness and just make it a little deeper because maybe the trouble I'm having getting this blade in is all because the spring is a little bit awkward. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is instead of having 2 magnets here, I think what I'm going to do is where this knob is at, I think I'm going to put the knob in place of one of the magnets. So then this knob will be a lot bigger, and then we'll only have 1 magnet holding it in place. And that will make it much easier to pull apart to get it open. And so I think that'll be a better design, especially when it's closed. Like I said, when it's closed and you have to like pull this open and kind of twist it. You see what I did there? Geez, I almost cut myself. So I think it's just a little too hard to pull open, which kind of makes it like the opposite of safety, right? So let's go make those changes real quick. All right, I actually recorded about 16 minutes more in Fusion fixing everything, and I forgot my mic was turned off. So in that first part of the video there, you just saw me making that hole a little bigger, I believe, so it wasn't such a tight fit. And then now in this part, I am extending that spring, that top line right there. And I'm going to use the draft tool here. And what I did first is I split that face, and that allowed me to use that draft tool and only affect that top little spring area. And by making that a 45-degree angle, you can see that top line is a lot longer now. So that makes the spring work way better. And then I decided to change the shape of this little square here because I was afraid that was affecting the spring as well. So I just deleted the chamfers, hit extrude and made it a little smaller, and then redid those chamfers. And in this right here, you can just see me, actually it looks like I split the body, not split the face. So the reason that body is split there is so I could use that draft tool on that top section, that left section. And now you just see me combining that back into one body. From here, it's basically doing what I said in the previous section. I am removing this tiny knob, so I'm just kind of deleting these features and getting rid of it. And then I'm going to turn one of those magnet holes into the knob. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm still fighting a cold, so my voice isn't 100% back to normal. And I am shooting this voiceover after I've completed this video, and this ends up working really well. So you can just see me trying to extrude up, and I'm going to change some sizes here. Put a little chamfer on it. And then the hole where that knob goes, now I have to change that size to fit that knob because I wanted that knob a little bigger, and it's a little bigger than the magnet hole. So I'll extrude that down, and then I think I'll add a chamfer. Going to use the push-pull tool there to make that hole a little bigger. Just checking with a section analysis to make sure that's right. And I believe at this point, I'm just kind of going through and making sure all my measurements are right, adding some chamfers. And then at this point, I think I changed the thickness of the wings here, and then add the chamfer back in. So this printed great. Now that it's physically here, about the only thing I would still change is this knob that kind of locks it in place, whatever, so it can't move. This should probably be taller. I think I made it 1 millimeter tall, and it probably should be 2 millimeters or maybe 1.5 millimeters. I'm not going to go back and change it for this video, but I would make this a little thicker. I think it'll probably be fine, but I'm just worried that maybe it could still slip out because it's just not enough meat there. But okay, let me show you how this goes together. I think I showed you in the preview, we've got our little rivet screws here, 3 millimeter by 10 millimeter metal dowel pin. This dowel pin sticks right in that hole, and we pretty much have a perfect fit. Okay, then this just actually pick a side, doesn't matter which. Sorry, I dropped my rivet here. Pick one of the leaves, it doesn't matter which, and you can push that through. And then your knife goes on next. Now there is a way, there's only one way this will fit. It won't fit this way because this pin doesn't hit the groove, so you have to flip it, so make sure you're paying attention to that. There's only one way to put it together. The other side will go here on top. And then I'm gonna add a little glue here. I'm just using some CBA glue. I know it says PVC trim, but it's basically just super glue. And we'll just put a little drip inside there. and then you're going to screw it down to your tightness, or to your how loose you want it to be. And once, you know, if you tighten this a lot, this mechanism will be a lot harder to turn, and if you leave it loose, you'll be able to fling it open real fast. So I'm going to let this sit and let the glue dry, and I will fast forward. Okay, I let that glue dry for a little bit, and you can see it opens real nice. I think I'm going to be really happy with this spring. I actually think it's going to work really well. Once again, I printed this in PETG HF, which is high flow from Bamboo Labs. I don't know if PLA, the spring, will work as well, because PLA is a lot stiffer, so this might be a lot harder to kind of pull on. But for PETG, it works awesome. So basically, I put the blade in, make sure this is, put the blade in, I turn it around, pull this out with my finger, and then the blade just slides in. And it's caught, it works well. To take it out, you can do the same thing. Just kind of pull up with your finger, pull the blade out, and it works well. Let's see if I can do that one more time. And there's maybe different techniques you can use, but nice little click when the knob catches the blade. But yeah, that works awesome. Okay, let's put the magnet in and see, 2 magnets, one here, and see how they work. Okay, let's screw out of here. I'm gonna put a little bit of super glue in here. Doesn't need to be a lot. Take this, hide this blade so I don't cut myself. Take my first magnet and shove it in there. Nice fit. Now I'm gonna take the second magnet and just magnetize it to it. Flip it over, hide that blade. Add some glue. And the reason I stuck this second magnet here, because now I know they're attracted in that orientation. So I can turn it around, take this slide that magnet off, and put it in this one. So once again, I'm gonna set this down and let this dry for a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll test this little knob and stuff and see how well it works. So I will pause the video and we'll come back in just a second. All right, I think I've waited enough time here. There's that nice click from the magnet. Can't move it when it's closed unless you pull it apart. Much easier to pull apart. And a nice click. And again, it's not coming apart. Little bit of play here, but not horrible. That's the thing about 3D printing. You can not change a single thing, and one print might be a little different than the next print. I did not change the model in any way, and there's just more, at least in regards to this 180 degrees, and there's just more slop here than my previous print. And if I print this again, there might be less slop. It just kind of is what it is. But I think that's an acceptable amount of wiggle. Like I said, about the only thing I would still change here is that little knob. This little knob probably should be a little thicker, just to give it a little bit more safety, just so it really locks in. So there's no way these two pieces can slide apart without being intentional. But gosh, I'm really happy with how this spring works. It's really easy to, I hope you can see that. It's really easy to pull out, and you can easily remove this blade with no tools. And that blade is held in there really well. Now, disclaimer, of course, this is a plastic knife, right? It is going to break if you put a ton of pressure down, right? If you're holding this on your workpiece and you're just really digging in, this plastic is not going to hold up. So it's really meant for like opening up cardboard boxes, maybe put it in your tackle box to cut fishing line, real easy stuff. Don't treat this like you would a metal knife, otherwise you're going to get injured. But this blade, or I'm sorry, this metal pivot and these metal pins really make a huge difference in strength. It's night and day stronger than that last version. And all the hardware that I use, like these metal pins and these little rivets, I will link down in the description, as well as the magnets. Just in case you want to design it exactly like I did, you can use the same hardware. But remember, you can find your own hardware and you can change the sizes of things in here and make it your own. One last thing I kind of forgot to touch upon, and hopefully you can see this. There may be just a little too little, or I'm sorry, there may be just not quite enough space where this blade moves across this straight line. So these wing pieces may need to just be a millimeter longer, just so this blade has more clearance. It does clear, but just barely. Okay, I think I'm going to call that good. This is a long video. Thanks for watching, guys.